Abraham, I hope you don't mind me answering the gentleman before me his question about whether he should keep his life insurance or not. I think he should keep it because I sold it to him. Is this all one life? I mean, we talk about reincarnation, and if you had a series of lives, is it just one giant life with a series of lives to it?
Well, we like that. We like that. You're the first one who's ever put it to us in that way, and we think it is a very healthy, accurate approach to it, because you are an eternal consciousness, and you are projecting your thought and therefore your experience into a variety of experiences. So we think that is as good of description as we've ever heard.
Okay. Along those same lines, I feel like that I'm done with it, that this is the last time. Is that capricious thinking? Is it a choice that we make? I mean, Abraham, you're done with it, right? You're not coming back.
Hardly.
But you're not coming back, are you, in form, physical form?
Well, how do you separate the part of us that is in you from the part of us that isn't? In other words, we are consciousness. If humans who are sort of shortage-oriented often come to the conclusion that they are here to provide some service or to make some achievement, and once they've made it, then they don't need to come forth. And that leads us to this most important question that you must answer before we can accurately answer the question that you already have presented to us, and that is, what do you think is the reason that you've come forth at all?
It would just be experiential, just simply to experience being in physical form.
So it would be like, we like to approach your life experience, and we think a healthy approach for your life experience would be like the way you feel when you are embarking upon a vacation. You embark upon a vacation for the experience, that is a good word, for the adventure, for the fun of it, for the joy of it, for the expansion of it, for the joy of it, for the adventure of it, for the joy of it. And so we as eternal beings are eternally joy-seeking beings, and when we see this leading edge environment as the avenue through which the most outrageous joy can flow, we would say to you, why would you ever want there to be an end to that? That would be like having a fabulous vacation and then saying, this was my last one. The reason that most people say this is my last vacation is because the vacation that they last took, they did not like very much. They got bogged down in traffic. They had a bad time. And so from that standpoint, people say, I don't want another vacation. And it's usually from that standpoint that people usually say, I don't want another physical experience. When you're having a rip-roaring good time, when life is flowing through you, when you feel fabulous, you're usually saying more, more, more. And so we want you to know that the mantra from Nonphysical is more, because you are in this place of pure positive energy and you do want more. But it's a very common thing for someone in physical body to say to us, Abraham, I'm finished with this now, and I want you to know that I don't want to come back, and so tell anyone who needs to know. And we always say we will carry your message. But then we always also say, fortunately, you do not make those decisions from your physical point of view, where there is resistance included. And we do not sense that you are not wanting more life experience because this one is not pleasurable, right, or because you do not feel that this is worthwhile. We feel that you have heard someone exclaim that the physical environment is the place where people come to learn and progress, and you want to count yourself among those who have progressed. In other words, you want to be one of those masters who says, well, I've achieved this phase, now what? And we say, this is the main event. In other words, source energy is certainly the broader part of who you are, but this is the leading edge place. You want to be in the leading edge place. Do you ever see someone who is technologically evolved saying, well, I think I'll hold back and revive the 8-track? I think I'm going to get my old IBM electric typewriter out and see if I can't manufacture a lot of them and market them to the world. In other words, good luck on that, because people sense and want to be in the leading edge of all things, and the eternal spirit that is you does too, because it's more fun there, it's more expansive there, and there is a law behind it. You can never become less than you already are. You can't have achieved this vibrational place and then slip back into a former vibration. So you must expand forward, and not returning and not continuing to be on the leading edge would in essence be a slipping back. Also, there is a fallacy in your thought, and it is very common, when people think that it is physical or non-physical. So Abraham, as we are projecting ourselves now from the broader non-physical perspective, we are not non-physical only, we are non-physical expressing through physical, you see. And all that is non-physical is expressing through physical. If all that was non-physical didn't express through physical, physical could not be. And if you could be only physical and not connected to non-physical, you would wither in a moment. And non-physical would cease to be if it was not expressing itself in an expanding way, you see. It's not either or. And yet, we add to the confusion as we talk about the physical you and the inner you in an attempt to get you to look at life differently and accept that you are an extension of non-physical energy. But that's why we are so triumphant about the idea of death, because we know there isn't any. But as you count your births, in other words, you see that little body that wasn't here, and then out it comes. Here is this new little human with new spirit, and you say, oh, there is a birth that has taken place here. There is a beginning. And we say, yes, there is a beginning of perspective from this point of view, because it is so refreshing to have this new point of view that will summon flawlessly and unaffectedly and non-resistantly, and will add to the balance of this leading edge time-space reality. But this one didn't begin here and won't end with the death of this physical body. We loved your words about, are we living just one life? And we say, yes, you are.
Well, it's so encouraging to see like younger people being exposed to this. My nephew, 16 years old, and now he'll be exposed to something that I was exposed to at 45, and then you see the continuation of this really being the leading edge, and then seeing that starting to manifest.
It's great fun to watch those who have not yet given up their power assume it. In other words, they don't go through that gap time. But we also want to say to you, it happens for everyone in perfect timing with what you knew would unfold. In other words, you rendezvoused with your history and with your technology in perfect alignment with what you knew would be the next logical step. And your nephew's doing exactly the same thing. And his 16-year-old introduction is not superior to your 45-year-old introduction. Everything is happening in its perfect timing.
Beautiful. My last question. Do we create our own thoughts, or do they just come to us?
Well, again, they are rendezvousing. They couldn't come to you if you were not vibrationally ready for them. But no one's thinking utterly new thoughts. So everything that you are and what you've launched into your future before is readying the future experience that you will then walk into. And it's happening to everyone else too, and law of attraction's matching you up. You are preparing yourself vibrationally for the reception of the thought. So we would say that you are more the translator of thought than you are the actual creator of the thought. But then what's the difference? In other words, here Esther is, she's prepared herself vibrationally, and here you are, you've prepared yourself with things you want to know, and here we are rendezvousing, and here Esther is receiving the thought. And someone not understanding the process would say, well, Esther's very wise. She's got a lot of knowledge stored up, and she sure can offer it at the appropriate time. And we say, what's happening is the thought that is in response or the appropriate answer to the question that's being asked is rendezvousing, and Esther is just a good receptor of that. And really, we think that's a good definition of all thought. That's why Jerry and Esther keep arguing about who thought of it. Because it keeps coming, it's coming to them. In other words, in fact, what they are beginning to notice is that it's thoughts that could not be if it were not for the combination of the two of them. In other words, the two of them and what they're living and they're interfacing with others is summoning. So the key of creation is about the life experience that causes the perceptual asking, and then the deliberate attuning of vibrational alignment with your ability to interpret or articulate the vibration. And so, really good question. Who is the creator of my thought? And we say, well, to put it simplistically, it's you and you. In other words, it's the you that is having the experience that summoned the questions, and then it's the broader part of you that is able to assimilate all of that and understand. And then it's the soup of thought that is the combination of every thought that's ever been thought and the way it fits into it. You've given us here, as we've been visiting here today, some perspectives that are unique to you, that have dovetailed so precisely with what we know to be, and we promise you that we will begin articulating, because we felt the way it resonated, the idea of living one life. In other words, there's something really worth knowing about that. And so then you think, well, who thought that thought? Where'd that thought come from?
I did.
You'll get full credit for it.
Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed. Right on the heels of every problem that you're going to live, which you don't have to live, by the way. You could adjust your vibration, but the way it's looking, you're going to get plenty of them. So you've been lining up problems, but right on the heels of every one of those problems is a solution. Do you realize you could shorten the gap so much between the problem and the solution that you wouldn't even have to live the problem? You see what we're getting at? When you understand how ahead of everything this source energy is and this vibrational escrow, then you begin to believe in your well-being. But if you get oriented to believe that there is some virtue in suffering, or that you shouldn't experience well-being because you know somebody who isn't, or you just love them so much that they've got your undivided attention and now you've brought yourself to feeling as bad as they do, then you're holding yourself in vibrational resistance to the well-being that should be yours. It's all right. You can't get it wrong. You'll never get it done. That's why you can't get it wrong, because you can't get it done. Because no matter where you're standing and how bad it feels to you, from this place you're launching rockets of desire, which the universe is going right to work on. So it's getting better and better and better and better and better for you. The question is, are you letting what is better and better and better and better for you into your experience? And if your answer is, yes, I work hard every day to feel good. I try to soothe myself. When a negative thought comes and a negative feeling ensues, I work to try to soften it. Then we say, then every day you're letting more of the well-being in that is yours to live. Don't be upset if the world can't hear it. Just live it. And eventually, through the clarity of your example, those who are paying attention to you will begin to say, what's your secret? And then you can tell them your story. I tried to be unselfish for many years and not pay attention to how I felt, and try to guide myself by what others thought I should do. But you know, they kept being in disagreement with each other. And I just got more and more confused, because they couldn't make up their mind about how I should be. I was the wrong color for most of them. I was the wrong religion for most of them. I was the wrong political party for about half of them. No matter how hard I tried, there was no consistent guidance. So I was this way and this way and this way and this way and this way. And then I remembered that I'm supposed to feel good. And I got to tell you, I just got selfish enough that I cared enough about how I felt that I started guiding my thoughts toward things that felt good to me on all subjects. And the more I did it, the better I felt. And the better I felt, the better it got. And the more I did it, the better I felt. And the better I felt, the better it got. And the more I did it, the better it felt. And the better it felt, the better it got. Until I'm thriving on all subjects. And then your friend who is not thriving will say to you, you selfish bugger. At which point you must say to them, try it, you'll like it. I discovered, you can say to them, I had nothing to give until I hooked up with the resources of well-being. And now I am abundant, so I can give profusely. I am clear-minded, so I can guide steadily. I feel wonderful, so my body will last a long time. In other words, I've tapped into the resources of the universe, and I innately can now feel that I am now the extension of source energy. I am now the God force that I've heard so many talk about. I am now living what I've always felt must be true. I have come home to the resources of well-being. Good. So you have some things you want to talk about?